guys, it's Lucas, and right next to me is Casey from Combustion Chamber. He's going to be taking us for a spin in his 2004 Pontiac GTO.
Let's get after it. Hey, if you ever want to see him again, you give me your Ferrari.
So, Casey, tell us a little bit about your show, Combustion Chamber.
Well, Combustion Chamber is a show I started a few years ago because I love cars, I love telling stories, and I do video production as a career. And I had some frustrations in some other places professionally, and I said, you know what, I have the talent to make a really good, outstanding show, and I love cars, and I like interacting with people who are into the same things that I am. Yeah. So we started the show, and it's been a lot of fun. We've had really interesting vehicles. We've had exotic supercars, kind of oddity cars, homemade stuff. We've had rat rods that people have built, from hand by themselves. We've had McLarens and Lamborghinis. We've had a 1958 BMW Isetta. It's like the refrigerator door car. And the people that we interview are fantastic. Their stories are really good. And one of the things that I really like is their reaction to seeing their story on screen. I actually really believe in sort of being in service to the guests and to the audience with the show. While I refer to it as sometimes my show or our show, it really is about the audience and the guests. So that's why we put the quality that we put into it. And when you see that guest light up and give you that positive feedback because you showed them respect, you put in the effort with their story, sometimes very personal, very intimate stories, like serving wounded veterans or a lost loved one. They really feel like their story matters, and it does. And so I really believe in being in service to the audience and to the guest. Now, do I get something out of it? Sure, I get to drive really awesome cars, meet really interesting people, but there is a thrill and a satisfaction of doing that for other people.
Well, Casey, do you have any cool stories about how you got this Pontiac?
Well, I do, actually. I had not bought a car in over a decade, and I got through my family a PT Cruiser. That's kind of an embarrassing car for a grown man to drive, but what happened was it caught on fire while I was driving it.
Wow.
I lost the brakes, and when I tried to come to a stop, the pedal went right to the floor, and I was like, uh-oh, and the car kind of did this power lurch thing. And then as I begun to slow down naturally, because the whole thing ended up shutting off, I saw smoke coming out of the back, and then when I came to a stop, the whole area over here was just fire and smoke. I got out of the vehicle, I was fine, the fire department was great, they showed up real fast, but not enough time to save the vehicle. And I was kind of at a certain point in my life where I played it safe financially because I always put money into my career, meaning camera equipment, audio gear, to make stuff like Combustion Chamber.
Right.
And I said, but you know what? I can afford a nice car now. But I like cars that are slightly older, that have the power and reliability, but not all the touchscreen interface, not all the bells and whistles and constant warnings that a lot of modern cars have now. So what I ended up doing was, I remembered the GTO. And I said, that's perfect. It has just enough to be reliable and safe, and I can drive it every day, but it has an LS engine, it's got power, it's fun to drive, and it's unique because I'm a big Camaro guy, and the 67, which we had on your show, is very unique. And at first I thought about picking up a Camaro, but they were retaining their value so well at that time. It was a little too expensive, and to make it truly unique, I'd have to sink a lot more money into it. And I didn't want to go that far with it at that time because I was still in a certain place with my career where that just wasn't viable. I found this car in South Carolina. It was somebody's weekend driver, had something like 47,000 miles on it. They couldn't get it off the lot. They sold mostly crossover SUVs, luxury SUVs, things like that in the particular suburb that they were in.
Right.
So I found it. I drove up there to test drive it, really went over it. car was in great shape. I ended up buying it and driving it back. Now, not that same day, because I had to do some more research. For example, when you put this car in drive, you can kind of feel the back end squats down a little bit. And I thought, is there something wrong with the car? Because sometimes you can blow your rear suspension. So I'm pushing down on the back of the car because the dealer didn't want to go on a test drive with me. He's like, you just take it. Like he didn't care. And usually when your rear suspension's blown out and you push down on it, it doesn't immediately come back up. It kind of creeps back up over time. But it was fine. And then I researched what it was, and it was fine. It's just part of how the independent suspension works on this car. Did a little bit more research, and I never fall in love with a car until after I buy it. So got the car, fell in love with it, drove it back. It's very modified. Well, I would say very. In Florida, we can get away with a lot here, but my home state of Texas, this car is red hot illegal. Wow. So it's got SLP headers and pipe and resonators, no catalytic converters, no mufflers. It's got a full K&N intake. And then you've got that extra go power, but you need some extra stop power because this is a big car. So when they put the LS2 in 2005 and 2006, they also put painted calipers and larger rotors up front. So what I did was I found, it happened to be a pair of, or a whole set of painted 2006 GTO calipers, and then I put aftermarket slotted and cross-drilled rotors all around the car, steel brake lines, and then high-performance pads. So the car, when you're daily driving, you come to a stop sign, it doesn't feel any different. If somebody cuts you off, you need to stomp on your brakes.
Whoa.
Yeah. It'll stop real quick. So, but it was a little tricky because we're working with an Australian platform. But what's tricky about doing stuff on a car like this, the engine's easy, right? That's American, bolt-on parts, not a big deal. But when I was switching out the calipers and caliper brackets, well, there was these parts called knuckles. And when the bolt that fits the caliper bracket didn't fit the 04 knuckle. And like we talked about earlier, this is an Australian car. All the suspension, everything, that's all Australian. So they wanted something like $600 for a pair of knuckles. And that's outrageous.
Yeah, it's too much.
So my dad, who's an automotive genius, I mean, quite literally genius. You had the 67 Camaro on the show. You've seen his work. And a good friend of mine, Felipe, we all worked on the car together. And we had to make these press fit shims to take up that extra gap on these factory knuckles, so that when we put the bolt in there wasn't any wiggle room on the knuckle. So the bolt goes through the caliper bracket and into the knuckle. Right. That way, the car is actually safe. And that way we can stop and stop better and more efficiently. If I ever decide to get this out onto a track and have some fun with it,
you can do that,
yeah. So, but as a daily driver, I mean, you can see riding in it right now, it's very smooth. You've got AC, you've got your stereo, you've got all your creature comforts, you've got traction control, cruise control, and unlike cars of the past where more options would rob the V8 of power, the modern LS and the computer system really helps you to still have fun and get that power without draining the car. Because I can do this. Accelerate with the AC on. Now, is that a super fast acceleration? Of course not, but you can get that power, you can have that fun with the car. Okay, my man, so I got a question for you.
Yes.
You've been asking me questions all day. It's got to be okay with your folks, but do you want to drive the car?
I would love to.
Well, let's ask the boss.
Yeah.
Boss, can he drive?
Yeah.
Combustion Chambers GTO. All right. Also, you can adjust your seat. I know it's hard to see it. There's buttons down there. Now reach over here and put it into drive. Just pull back real slow. You see how the car's squatted down?
Yeah.
Okay. Now give it a little gas. You're fine.
What's a little bit?
Oh, sorry. I left the brake partially on. Give it just a gentle touch. There you go. Keep your hands on the wheel. Grab the wheel. Give it a little bit more gas. You're fine. Just slowly. Again, keep your foot on, just like that. Just barely. Remember, it's got plenty of power. See? Now turn the wheel a little bit to your left. See how it kind of to the right? You see, you got a little bit of play there.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to drive. It really is like any other car. People believe because it has so much power that, oh, it's gonna take off on me, but it really doesn't. The only way you crash this car is if you don't know how to drive it. So now go ahead and take your foot off the gas. Put the brake. Yeah, right, you're already going. Car's already moving. So like I said, it's just like a regular car. The only way that you crash in this car where it's your fault is if you don't understand or respect the power that it has. But driving it normally on the street, staying at the speed limit, you're fine. But you have to really understand that this is, while it has traction control, it's rear wheel drive, engine's in the front. This thing will get away from you.
It will go faster.
Especially in the rain, you know, so. But it's a safe car. And we'll go up to the stop sign. You can give it a little bit more gas, just a little bit. And then let off the gas and slowly push the brake. Right here till you come to a full and complete stop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in neutral first. I always use the parking brake so the weight of the car goes on the parking brake. This saves stress on your transmission. Then, doors unlock. Now, let's switch because I want to do something for you.
Ready.
Okay, so, want to go fast?
Yeah.
All right, let's go fast.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
We're at 60, 70, 75, shutting it down, applying your brakes. That was what, in a 25 mile per hour zone?
Yeah.
Actually, no. That was in another country. See, we shot this in Mexico just now. We went to Mexico and shot it down there. We would never drive like that in the United States. No, we were. What country were we in, man?
Mexico, right?
Mexico.
Yep. Yeah.
Si habla español. Si habla fast car. So. And of course, you could feel the traction control kick in.
Yeah.
And it does give you a warning on the screen. Because if you take the traction control off and you do that, like if your tires are cold or you're not experienced with the car, you're off. You're gonna hit a tree or something.
Yeah, you're gonna.
So because I have you in the car and your wonderful camera operator back there, I want to keep the traction control on so we're as safe as possible.
Right.
But it does take off pretty quick. I mean, we were already at 75.
Yeah, by the time. Yeah.
So because even though it's a big car,
it still goes fast.
Oh, it takes off great.
Yeah, if you had this on the track, you could be more.
Oh yeah. I did drive it on Daytona, but it was only a parade lap, which means it's really slow.
Oh.
But on the high banks, they're 31-degree inclines, so you still have to go about 70. And what's interesting is even though you're going to the left, you have to turn your wheel a little bit to the right. Otherwise, you slide down that incline.
That's true. Thank you so much, Casey, for letting me be on your show and filming your awesome 2004 Pontiac GTO. Do you have anything to say before we leave?
Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank your family for having me on your show again today. I'm glad that you were willing to get behind the wheel of the car. I think that's very cool. A lot of people, cars like this scare them. You got behind it. You did great. And we had a lot of fun. We did do some fast driving in what country?
Mexico.
Mexico. Never in the, no, not in the United States. Not
Absolutely not.